Next month will be 7 years since Denzel Curnell died after an altercation with a Charleston Police Department officer at Bayside Manor in downtown Charleston. Today, I speak exclusively with Denzel Curnell's father, Dwayne German, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Dwayne German, welcome back to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me back on the show.
You're very welcome. Obviously, you are Denzel Curnell's father.
I am.
And I brought you on Quintin's Close-Ups again because, once again, we're talking about some, issues going on with law enforcement in the community. And just last night, obviously, in an unrelated situation, you had obviously a shooting at an event in North Charleston which left one person dead. But for recently, as far as a couple of weeks ago, and right now, we're still talking about obviously the untimely death of Jamal Sutherland. And as you know, Sutherland was 31 years old when he was arrested on January 4th after a large-scale fight broke out at a psychiatric facility where he was actually receiving mental health treatment, according to a statement from North Charleston City Mayor Keith Summey. And obviously, he went over to the Charleston County Detention Center, where officials there, unfortunately, according to the video, didn't treat him the right way. And officials there actually released hours of body-worn camera footage and details about the final hours of his life. And according to the video, he was pepper sprayed and electric shocked with a taser in a jail cell. Where are you emotionally?
A wreck. I'm an emotional wreck behind all these incidences of maltreatment to men of color, to people of color. But let me speak to the latest tragedy first. To the bereaved family, I offer my condolences and God's blessings and peace be unto them. If they could find any peace, if they could find any comfort in the sudden death of a child, that's one of the most harrowing events a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, a relative can go through. The sudden death of a child, a healthy, vibrant child. I mean, with all the future and promise of tomorrow ahead of them. I ask them that if they can, let justice take its course. If they think justice is there for them, to lean on one another and the Lord, that they find peace with God and with one another in the time of bereavement. And I hope there's no more. I hope there's no more loss of life. And no more retribution, no more tit-for-tat killings. And my heart goes out to those families who just lost loved ones and injured ones yesterday and last night.
And when we spoke right across the way here last year for Quintin's Close-Ups, we talked about obviously the untimely death of Denzel. And you said, when we talked actually about George Floyd at the time, you said it's the same place as the same day of the occurrence of his death.
Yes. Is
this the same thing?
It puts me right back in the same place of the bereaved family today. You don't ever get away from that. It never stops hurting. You have your good days, you have your bad days, you learn to manage it a little better with time, but it always hurts. It's ever present, always there, because there's a void where someone once stood who doesn't stand there anymore. Go ahead, after you.
How do you manage this? I mean, after what now, 7 years?
Next month on the 20th will be 7 years since his death. With no justice, no resolution, no consideration at all. I lean on faith and try not to get angry at the circumstances that transpired during the day because it's unjust and it's wrong. A killing, either black on black crime or either a killing by law enforcement, is nonetheless a killing. And it has to stop. It has to stop with anything that I can do to point people in the right direction, to educate, to inspire, to encourage in any way I'm willing to do, but it has to stop. It has to stop. I mean, we're on the brink of genocide with the known ones and the unknown ones that have been documented. Some haven't been documented. Some have been erased, such as my son. Some, the narrative has been changed to claim it as death by something else or another hand. And it has to stop. Be it in a jail cell, be it in a neighborhood on the corner, or be it behind closed doors in a home of a relative or a friend, it has to stop. Our people can't survive like that.
What should have been the narrative going back 7 years ago to right now about what happened to your son?
Complete transparency. Not 3 different reports changed for the convenience of those who enabled the officer to do what he did and to cover up his misdeed. Non-compliance should not be a death sentence.
What did they enable this officer to do, allegedly?
Cause Denzel's demise due to non-compliance.
And I know, obviously, when I spoke with you for Quintin's close-ups last year, you said, hey, listen, this current administration is more considerate and understanding. Has that been consistent?
It has, but it's yet to come to fruition.
What hasn't come to fruition?
I want justice for Denzel. I'm his father. He did not kill himself. He did not kill himself. But to deem his death as suicide exonerates the officer who violated his civil rights and stopping him for a manner of dress and ultimately cost his life because they got into an altercation and Denzel lost.
I always thought about this, Mr. German, but have you actually gotten an official apologies from this?
I have gotten nothing. I haven't gotten an official apology. I've been able to have a conversation with him, and I wanted one, just to hear his version of the story.
Sure.
You know what I mean? The dead men don't speak, but they come to me in spirit. You know, I mean, it's hard. It's really hard. It's hard to stay in a civil mind and a Christian mind when you have thoughts of injustice, treatments of being just dismissed with the stroke of a pen to say that it was suicide and it has not.
And I know, speaking of which, you said, hey, the prior administration covered this up and there was displacement.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What else did they displace that we don't know about?
The videotapes of the occurrence and the incident, the mishandling and the mishandling of the crime scene. I want the actual footage of the encounter that was confiscated, edited, and probably by now destroyed. I want the nature of his death changed from suicide to even accidental, but he did not kill himself. His spirit can't be at peace with that hanging over his name. He wasn't a violent child. He didn't have a criminal record. He didn't even have a driver's license. They thought he was younger than what he was. He wasn't. He didn't deserve that. And to just write him off as a hashtag. To not speak of it as if to go away. If you don't recognize the evil that's been done, it's going to reoccur.
And I know also when we spoke last summer, you said, hey, I have been told to be careful what I do and what I say. But how could you find justice?
Speaking to you right now, hoping someone who has a conscience, a heart and mind will hear it and say, you know, let's give this another look. A closer look. believe in the words that are coming out of my mouth. You don't repeat the same lie over and over. This is not a lie. This is a tragedy. I've been living, it'll be 7 years next month.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, and it's happening too much. It's happening too much. I mean, you get more reserved for a household pet, more sympathy, more respect for a household pet than you get for a loss of a young one. And yes, there's black on black crime. I don't agree with none of that. None of that should be, you know, just like I want the police to give up their bad apples, I want the black community to give up their bad apples too. What's good for one is good for the other. I mean, it's if you keep enabling them and protecting them, they're gonna bring down the whole system. And not to say all black people are bad. There's a criminal element in every society, every nationality. That's not to say that we're all bad is wrong, but we got our bad apples. And for us to protect them by not giving them up and saying that what they're doing is okay, but they got to make money too and all that too. But you know, but then you infect the community with disease. What about the hard-working people who go to work honestly every day, and then you make it hard for their kids to have a wholesome and a possible life because of the ill you bring into the community, and it's only for your personal gain. I don't care if you're giving a relative or somebody some money on a bill. It's not worth the damage you do. It's not worth it. So to that I say to the policeman that you got bad apples in on the force. It's not worth tainting the whole force to keep a couple of bad officers immune. And if they didn't want to, they'll do it again.
Is this officer still employed with the police department?
As far as I know, yes.
Have you been able to talk with the new police chiefs?
I have, but compassionate as he may be to my situation, I think his hands are partially tied too.
Who was Denzel Curnell?
Denzel Curnell was my son. He'd have been an unspoken name had it not been for his untimely demise. His mother passed away 18 months prior to him of cancer. I took him and I said, no, you will not become a ward of family members who really don't have time for you. He was still a young child. I got him through high school. I made sure that he finished high school. I asked him which direction he wanted to go in life and what he wanted to do. I got him into the military. I did not push him too hard, but all my being, I tried to protect him from the same fate that brought him down. And I wanted him to have a future no matter the hardships he had early on in life. He got out of the military because he was still broken behind his mother. And the Lord, he was still a kid. A kid. And coming to his sister's rescue or her aid, or to see what was going on with her, no matter what his manner of dress was or what was in his pocket or non-compliance, should not be a death threat.
Mr. German, let me ask you this. I don't know if I ever asked you this, but what were your final moments with your son prior to his untimely death?
I was actually working. I multitasked. I always had several jobs. I was actually working. He called me. I told him, I said, it's a hot night. Don't be out too late. When I get off from my second job, I will come and check on you. And I don't want you to be in any bad company. And don't stay out too late because I don't want you to get in any trouble. I said, promise him. We had a good rapport and a good understanding. I said, don't get in any trouble because I'm counting on you to do the right thing for both of us. That's the conversation I had. 10:20 that night. I didn't know. Next morning, I know when I found out, it brought me to my knees. As every occurrence of a child being killed or a black person being killed brings me to my knees. It's a pain that keep on hurting, man. Had his mother not met her demise before him, I'm sure that would have killed her. You know, the pain of, I'm a father and I'm a grandfather now, but that one is missing. Nothing takes the place of that one. It'll never be another one. And there'll be one similar to him. There'll be one some that remind me of him, but there'll never be another him. All his promises is gone. God did not send him a disease to take him. He died at the hand of another. If it was a lay person, an average person, they'd be charged with a crime right now. But because of qualified immunity, he is not. Because they do no wrong. I'm not saying all cops are bad. All cops are not bad. Not bad. I don't believe in defunding the police. I believe in demilitarizing the police to a certain extent.
What extent would you go to?
To demilitarizing the police?
Yes,
in the same unfortunate instance with the Sutherland case,
right.
There should have been psychological professionals at side of the authorized police and transport when they come to get him from one institution to another, so they knew how to handle people in that state of mind. And not just seeing there's a violent threat because he's misbehaving, misdiagnosed, or under-medicated. And they would know how to treat, evaluate, and probably prescribe something to him to calm him down. Not meet him with brute force. Because he was delusional or a psychopath at that time. I don't claim to be a doctor, a social scientist, or none of that. But you have a sense of what's right and wrong when you get my age. Thank God for my age.
Should the Charleston Police Department have done that with your son?
I think if the officer wasn't so overzealous in his pursuit in the neighborhood, though the neighborhood was rough, but if he wasn't so overzealous in his actions and his mannerism and career, we might have another outcome. You know, just because you feel like you're a big hammer, everything shouldn't be seen as a nail. And I'm not taking up for him by any sense of means, but you know, if they use him as a hammer or a club all the time, that's all he knows to do.
Dwayne German, thank you so much for your time, and again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me again, and like I said before, my condolences to the bereaved families at this time. The Sutherland family, I wish them peace and success in their pursuit of justice, and I hope they find it.
Thank you for your
sooner than later. And best wishes and help to you, young man.
Thank you. I appreciate
Always
it.
nice talking to you.
Likewise.